Have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Now, that kind of talk this week dragged Australia's share market to a two-year low. There are, of course, complex reasons for that.
He was the big spender. The big spender.
Doing the grocery shopping could take a huge chunk out of the family budget.
And that's finance.
Hello and welcome to Comedian V Economist. We demystify the world of money and help you get a handle on the bigger picture. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real-life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
G'day, Adam. How you going?
Doing pretty well, thank you. I managed to survive Amelie's birthday party on the weekend. Happy birthday, Amy. She turned 7. Daddy loves you very much. Not such a fan of your friends. They're far too noisy. But good times anyway. And Halloween today as we record. So if I have to duck out for a sec, it's because we're getting trick-or-treated again. But massive show coming up, Thomas. When the chips are down in production, that is, Toyota has turned back to the good old car key. New South Wales plans to make pokies cashless, just like the majority of people who play them. Also, a story straight out of the NT News, so you know it's going to be amazing. There's been a robbery involving Steve Irwin, John Farnham and Alf from Home and Away. You know you're going to want to stay around to hear about that one. But first, Thomas, inflation data was out last week. Have we peaked? Where are we at?
No, we haven't peaked. No, there was no good news in the inflation data. It came in hotter than expected. Economists were expecting 1.6%. We got 1.8%. That's a fair whack higher. Annual inflation are running at 7.3%. That's a very high number. Just give you some context. It's high.
That's a high number.
Well, the key measure is the trim mean, which gets close to the RBA's measure of core inflation. That's running at 6.1%. year on year. That's the highest level since 1990. You remember the RBA's got a target band of 2 to 3%. So at 6.1%, we're more than double the upper bound of the target band. So yeah, nothing in there to suggest that the RBA is going to be sitting on its hands on Tuesday.
Right. So we're recording Monday, and the RBA meets tomorrow. Got their monthly rate rise meeting. Where they're not going to not rate rise, are they?
No, I can't.
Not with these high numbers going around.
No, they'll be looking at that going, "Whoa, that's high." Yeah,
we need low numbers, Phil. We need low numbers.
That's right. That's what the board's going to be pressing on him.
Too high, Phil. Got to get them down. How's 5? No, lower. Right.
It creates an interesting situation. Remember last month, RBA came out and surprised everyone by hiking by 25 basis points. So they tampered back their rate hikes. They had been doing 50. I think we got 4 50s in a row. They then dropped that back to 25. And that surprised everyone in the markets. Everyone was like, oh, because everyone was expecting 50. And at the time, the RBA noted that it was taking a little bit of a gamble being the first bank in the developed world to taper back the rate hike.
That's Phil's wheelhouse, though. He's not a follower. He's a leader.
So now he got out in front of that one and potentially got ahead of the curve. Because now inflation's come in a lot hotter than expected. So if we don't get 25 basis points on Tuesday, the only other scenario that markets are entertaining is another 50.
Right.
Which would look pretty stupid in this sense.
Again, wheelhouse. This is water off a duck's back. Looking stupid at the RBA.
Yeah, like you come out and you lead in the world, say, yeah, we're getting ahead of the curve. We think there's a lot of rate hikes already in the system. They're going to have an effect. They're going to drop inflation, and then you go, oh, actually, we got one data point that suggests that wasn't true, and now we're back to 50s. So I find like it would look like chaos. And so I just don't think the extra impact of having that extra 25 basis points is worth looking that stupid for.
Right.
So I'm backing 25 basis points, but CBA we're out saying it's a 50-50. It's a coin toss whether you get 25 or 50 basis points on Tuesday.
Right. Right. So if we think about inflation, then, so is inflation everywhere? Is it kind of are we just looking at widespread inflation now?
It's fairly widespread. Like you look at non-discretionary inflation versus discretionary inflation. That's one of the breakdowns the ABS gives us. So essentials are running at 8.4% inflation. So that's really hot.
Right.
Discretionary is at 5.5, but so that means you can't duck it. If you're a household, there's no escaping inflation. It's in your essentials, and it's running hot in your essentials. So that's having it. So it's having a bigger impact on household budgets than the headline data suggests. But the other thing, if you look at if you break it down, goods inflation, you can break down goods versus services inflation. So goods account for 3/4 of the rise, that's 7.3% over the year. So 3/4 of that is coming from goods. And that tells us that it's still largely an imported, weather-related COVID supply chain shock kind of story.
Don't tell me it could still be transitory. 4 years in.
4 years.
Turns out it was just a really long transitory period of inflation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of what it's saying. So you've got it's not feeding through into the broader economy. You'd know it's done that once it's in your services sector. That's sort of the argument there. Like if it was in services, then you think, okay, yep, it's everywhere, but it's not. So it's sort of mostly in goods, and that's largely these sort of shock related. So it's not in that. Remember that sort of demand versus supply framework. It still seems to be a supply shock.
Yes, no, well,
yeah. So it still seems to be supply shock driven rather than demand driven, which is also unfortunate because hiking interest rates affects demand. It doesn't help anything with the supply side. So it's not even clear that rate hikes are the right tool for the job in the current setting, but that's what we've got, and so you've got to do it. The other really interesting thing I think in it is you can break it down city by city. Guess which city's got the highest inflation numbers in the country?
Perth.
Oh, no. No.
I was totally uneducated. It was about as an uneducated guess. It was only because I was watching the cricket last night and they were playing in Perth, so that Perth was front of mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good. All right, I'm going to stop asking you questions.
Which, mind you, look, if I can rant for a second, it's disappointing how many games of the T20 World Cup are being played in Perth. Wonderful stadium, but start them earlier. Like you've got 90% of your television audience on the east coast of Australia. I can't stay up to watch. I forget who was playing last night. But I can't. I would love to have watched the end of, I think, India, South Africa. Love to watch the end of that, but it finished at like 2 a.m. or something. Crazy.
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, Adelaide. Anyway.
Not what this podcast is focused on. But when you got a platform, Thomas, you've got it.
That's right. Yeah. Pressing the big issues, you Comedian V Economist. Talking truth to power.
Just
start the cricket earlier, damn it.
I don't know who needs to hear this. If you're in the finance and investing sector, you know people in the broadcast community. Maybe you got some contacts at Cricket Australia. Do me a solid. Anyway, what city has the highest inflation?
Adelaide. Running.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So Adelaide's running at 2.6%. All the other capitals are running around that 2% mark. This is quarter by quarter, except for one capital, lowest. Do you want to take a stab?
Hobart.
No, it's Perth. Should have trusted your first instinct.
I couldn't go back to the well again. No, tried that, failed. I learned my lesson. I'm no dummy.
Yeah. No, so Perth actually had deflation in the September quarter.
Really?
So, yeah, negative 0.5%. What's Perth got that the rest of the country doesn't have?
Late
it has
nights.
a late night cricket and
Mining.
and mining and a domestic gas reservation.
Yes. Right. Oh, because that's right. They're kind of self-sufficient for gas.
Yeah.
Like when the gas was going crazy on the East Coast and energy prices were through the roof, Perth was like, nah, we're good here.
Yeah. No, they're going
Western
great.
Australia, right.
Western Australia, that's right. So Western Australia set a domestic gas reservation which says that 15% of all gas production must be reserved for the local market. So it's not even that much, 15%. It's not huge, but that's enough to drop prices. So where the East Coast is currently paying $30 a gigajoule for gas,
Yeah.
in Western Australia they're paying $5.50.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's like it just drops it by sort of 80% reduction in gas prices, which feeds directly into electricity prices. Electricity prices being a cornerstone commodity feeds through to the rest of the economy. So you drop gas prices and you have a massive effect on your inflation numbers. They've got deflation in Perth.
Yeah, right.
So yeah,
and that supports, because we buy electricity and gas on the sort of international market, right? Like outside of Perth. So that supports the theory that it's all sort of supply cost.
That's right. I mean, it's a
connection to it.
Yeah, that's right. Like the East Coast, we're exporting gas. There's no domestic reservation, so we end up paying global prices. So that $30, that's in line with global prices.
Right.
Western Australia duck that completely. They've got their own price, $5.50. They're laughing, and it's probably going to hold around $5.50, but in the rest of the country, it's going to keep heading north. And they're talking about electricity. We've had a strong ramp up in electricity prices. It's probably going to double from here, seems to be the best guess. Right. So that's not going to bring down inflation.
It makes perfect sense now. Perth is the only place that can afford to keep the lights on until late into the night.
Yeah, it's just a massive flex. Whatever.
Look at us with our bright lights. We don't even care.
We're not even going to turn them off when the game's finished.
All right, Thomas, what's going on with Toyota? They are going old school.
Yeah, they're going back to analog keys, mechanical keys for cars for their customers in Japan. Not all of them. So if you buy a car in Japan, you get 2 keys. Normally they're smart keys, digital keys, but there's a semiconductor chip shortage still. And so Toyota's is saying, look, we're going to give you 2 keys. We'll give you 1 smart key and 1 mechanical key, and then we'll fix you up with that second smart key when we get them in. But we don't know when that's going to be.
They're not
Very
that
sorry
smart.
for the inconvenience.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't this a security risk? Like if
Is it?
Well, I don't know. Like the fact that you can still start a car with a dumb key, which obviously dumb key didn't make it into the Toyota marketing material. But if you can still start the car with the dumb key, doesn't that mean potentially you could still start it with like a screwdriver or something? I thought the whole point of like smart keys was that they meant that they would become more sort of tamper resistant, because you needed it's essentially like a cryptographic exchange between your smart key and your car before the car will start.
Doesn't it work like a credit card though? Like I reckon my keys like
Can't
that.
open your car with your credit card. Definitely.
Yeah,
not.
no, you just got to jiggle it a bit.
Packing tape, yes. Credit cards, no.
No, but there's not a chip in the key itself. There's like a chip in the car that's communicating.
No, they're paired, yeah. So I got into home automation for a while, and I was trying to automate everything in my house. And what I wanted to do was, like at 10 o'clock at night, if I was at home, then lock the car. If I was at home, the car was in the driveway, not while Anna's out driving. But the car's in the driveway. I'm at home. I'm obviously not going to go out. Well, I'm father of 2. I'm not going anywhere after 10 o'clock at night generally. So lock the car, just because I often forget to lock the car. And there was no automation I could find because of the way, because you can buy like RF, infrared, whatever transmitters, but you couldn't get anything that would do your car because feel free, send us an email, cve@equitymates.com if I'm wrong, because I'd love to be able to do this. But I think because it's because the key is coded to the car, you can't get a universal remote, for example, to unlock your car with, basically.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about a remote. Like, I'm talking about like my actual key has something that communicates with the car that lets it know it's the right key. Yeah. So if you lose the thing, even I don't have a little beep beep remote thing on the key, but it's still communicating. And if I lose the black bit of the key stops working, even though the pins all match the key. Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't think I do.
Right.
But I feel like we're off track again, maybe. So I think the key point here is, if you know how I can automatically lock my car after 10 o'clock at night, cve@equitymates.com. So this is the chip shortage. Like, is Toyota the only one, or is it just because they're the biggest? That I haven't heard any other companies suffering this kind of fate, or is this just a smart move on Toyota's part?
No, well, I don't know if they're about this, but Honda has reduced production by 40% through October because they can't get chips. The American Car Industry Association reckons that supply shortages are going to cost 3.5 million vehicles this in the year to date. So production has been 3.5 million vehicles less than it would have been because of these supply chain shortages. Toyota was forecasting 9.7 million vehicles this year. It's now had to warn markets saying we're not going to hit that. I'm not going to meet that because we're not getting the chips we need.
This reminds me of when American Airlines or someone decided they were going to cut back from 3 olives to 2 olives in their like lunch meal on the flights, and they worked out if they did that would save them like, I don't know, $40 billion a year or something.
Yeah.
Just on 1 olive per meal, because like doesn't the average car contain like 1,400 microchips or something? Like, I feel like the extra one for the spare key. That's just kind of being a prick about things, isn't it? Like, really? But I guess, on at scale, you go, well, actually, we can maybe make another, I don't know, 1,000 cars if we save 1 chip per customer in their key.
Yeah, well, you're going to save 9.7 million chips based on their production targets.
There's a lot more cars. Yeah, that's true.
Maybe that makes a difference.
So why is there still this semiconductor shortage? Are they not production not happening again, or is it shipping? Is it what's going on?
Yeah, I think it's so we moved from sort of COVID supply disruptions, and then had all these sort of supply bottlenecks come through. But then in the middle of that, you had a sort of reorganizing of the geopolitical landscape. Russia attacked Ukraine. China became hostile with the US, basically, but like moved from sort of best friends to strategic rivals. America then sort of has this big push to reshore semiconductor production. So the whole semiconductor industry is reconfiguring itself, and it all just takes time to play out. And I think that's sort of why why this is still happening. But it's also why, again, this is a supply shock. If Toyota's down, the vehicle industry is down 3.5 million vehicles, that's the definition of a supply shock. Supplies dropped, which, other things being equal, means prices must go up.
So this is bad news for inflation too, then? This is just another inflation story.
Not a good news story for inflation. Yeah. So you kind of, as you're joking, it's kind of right. Like, we have these temporary transitory shocks, these supply shocks that happen that feed through into prices. But like the energy shock, the semiconductor shock is taking years to play out. And the danger with that is that then everyone just starts adjusting around this reality and prices going up. keep pushing higher. I mean, it's interesting. You've seen the other big story through COVID was container freight rates for international shipping. They exploded. They've come off recently, so they're starting to sort of normalize, which is going to take some heat out of inflation. But yeah, so far I haven't seen it in semiconductors.
I like this though. I like getting back in touch with the older technology. You know, like the mechanical technology, like moving back. It feels nice to move back to like a key rather than like my car like beeps at me if I walk too far away from it with the car running because the key's in my pocket. It's like, oh, hey, where are you going? I'm like, relax, I've got to lock the door. I like this kind of old school, less complicated. Like, I don't know, maybe we could save on like starter motors as well. Just get back to the old, you know, where people used to stand in front of their car and have to crank it over.
Crankshaft.
I love to see a Tesla owner with a crankshaft.
Market for that for sure.
Hey, before we go to a break, Clement sent us an email, cve@equitymates.com. Hey guys, love your podcast. You mentioned on your last episode that interest rates on mortgages were fixed in the US. I grew up in France and it's the same there. I wonder why in Australia we can't have fixed interest rates for more than a few years. Any thoughts? Thomas, any reason why the 30-year mortgage rate in the US does seem odd?
Yeah, it is odd. I did some research and I don't know. I read a couple of things and it just wasn't clear. It seems to be kind of a structural feature. They had it, and then you create sort of the financial infrastructure around it that supports that, and you have your securities and your derivatives and everything, and it's sort of like it just sort of evolves that way. Seems to be the answer. It's just evolved differently here. I mean, I think in practice I don't think you're not locked into your 30 years. I'm sure that must be the case, that you must be able to change lenders and refinance at lower rates at certain points. I think it's just
if you locked in the 80s, you're like 19% interest for 30 years. That'd kill you.
Yeah, so it must be something like that. But yeah, I don't know how it's evolved like that. Like I did read a piece and I just didn't quite get it immediately, so I'm not sure. The answer is it seems to be kind of complex, and
the answer is it probably works well for the banks.
Yeah, but we've got banks in America and Australia.
We do. That's an excellent point, Thomas. See, this is where you provide that expert analysis that the rest of us
the nuance.
just goes over the rest of our heads. Right, so it's not because of banks. Well, there you go. Well, I don't know. I feel like apologising to Clement. He had a good question, and I don't feel like we've given a good answer.
Yeah, maybe try another economics podcast. see how you go.
All right, why don't we pause there? We'll grab a quick word from this week's sponsor and be back with more Comedian versus Economist right after this. Welcome back here on Comedian versus Economist. Don't forget to check out community.equitymates.com. You'll find lots of people basically hanging out, talking stocks, talking investing, talking Comedian versus Economist perhaps in the Comedian versus Economist channel. But make sure you head over there, check it out, log in, create an account and get involved. But Thomas, New South Wales government are cracking down on pokies. What's going on with their pokies crackdown?
Yeah, well, kind of. We're probably not quite there yet, but we're potentially on a road to a bit of a crackdown. So the New South Wales Crime Commission...
We've drafted a paper that's going to be circulated to come up with potentially a proposal where we're going to look at reviewing the pokey situation in 2047.
Yeah, that probably is close to the reality of it. But yeah, the New South Wales Crime Commission has just done a review into pokies and money laundering.
Oh yeah,
and found that criminals are funneling billions of dollars of dirty cash through pokies, and saying the machines are a safe haven for money launderers because of the weak regulation.
Right.
The New South Wales Crime Commissioner Michael Barnes said, at the moment, serious offenders can enter New South Wales pubs and clubs, sit down next to patrons in gaming rooms and openly feed large sums of cash from their crimes into pokey machines with no real fear of detection.
They blend in with all the other old ladies who come in with a suitcase full of cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, it is. Well, this is literally what happens. So they come in with a huge amount of cash. They put the cash into the machine. They make a couple of bets.
Yeah.
And then cash out. Get a ticket. Take it to the office and get sort of a deposit for the money back, and then that becomes legitimate cash at that point.
Yeah, well, I listened to a podcast called, I think it was the Lazarus Heist. It was about the big North Korean cyber group, and maybe it was that one. Might have been a different one. Anyway, they basically worked out they took all this money out of, I think it was a Bangladesh bank. And they had to launder it somehow, and they essentially took it to a casino. And pokies are in Australia. I don't know about everywhere else, but in Australia they've got a minimum guaranteed return, so they have to return. I think it's something like 80% or something. So
it's in the 90s, I reckon.
Is it that high?
Yeah, it's like 87 minimum, I reckon.
87.
Most of them, and you can clock it. But most of them are clocked around 92, something like that.
Right. So criminals basically just take that hit. They go, well, that's just the cost of doing business. We'll take all of our ill-gotten gains and feed it through the pokies, and we'll get a return of 87%. The devil's number.
Yeah.
Coincidentally.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's what they're doing. And
so they don't want to get rid of pokies. They just want to get rid of
money laundering.
The money laundering.
Well, that's what the Crime Commission's saying. Yeah, they didn't look into whether pokies are a good thing or not, but they're saying saying that many. Yeah,
it's a pretty easy question to answer. I hate it. I talk about having a platform. I hate pokies. I just the scourge of the earth. I don't. There's no rationale why these things need to exist.
No. Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, they reckon many. They can't put the exact numbers on it. They got no idea, but they say it's in the many billions.
Yeah, wow.
And primarily from drug dealing is what they're saying.
Right.
So yeah, so they recommended a whole bunch of new rules. Updating the law to clarify that people and businesses associated with pokies must be active in preventing money laundering. The one I love is that update the law to enable venues with pokies to deny entry to people suspected of dealing with proceeds of crime. It's like I think to enable venues to deny entry. So it kind of means like if you at the moment you can walk into a pub in a black and white stripy shirt with some eye masks on and a bag of cash with a $sign written on it and go, I'd like to launder some money, please. And they can't deny.
They can't do anything about it.
Like, Pokie Land is this way. Would you like a free lemonade?
Free coffees. Perhaps a biscuit. We know that money laundering can be tough work. We'll hit offer you some free refreshments as you feed that cash through our machines. Right.
The other thing I recommend is changing the load up limits. So at the moment, the most you can like put a whole bunch of cash in and then just gamble it away. The maximum load up limit in New South Wales is $10,000. So a little bit of a flutter.
You've gone to the pub, you've had a schnitzel, you had a nice time, maybe celebrating a birthday with the family. You walk past the Pokie Lounge and you just think to yourself, oh, why not? Just drop a 10K. Just a cheeky 10K on the pokies on the way to the car.
Oh, it's so stupid. So yeah, they reckon that number needs to come down.
Well, it is. I think it is in other states, isn't it? Like it's like they're an outlier. Like in other states,
they are. They're the worst. New South Wales is the worst. Queensland, it's $100 in Queensland.
Yeah.
Which is that's reasonable.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing they recommended, and this is the one that got the most pushback, was the idea to introduce a mandatory cashless gaming system for pokies, or a gambling wallet, effectively.
Right.
So yeah. So you've got to. Effectively you need to register with the hotel or some provider that's authorizing it.
Yeah.
You do the know your customer regulations and all of that, and then you load up your card and then you take your card to the pokies. Yeah. And this is a proposal that's been around for quite a while to be able to crack down on problem gamblers and sort of say, so people can effectively get blacklisted, say like, okay, you're a problem gambler now, we're not loading up your card anymore. But yeah, the Hoteliers Association's really pushing back on that one. That one they find really alarming.
This notion of cracking down on where's helping problem gamblers? Like, where's supporting them to get off problem gambling and maybe, helping them.
You're like, they're the problem.
Yeah. What are you doing here at 8 a.m. again? You've got a problem. Really? Or maybe you shouldn't be open at 8 a.m.
8 a.m., yeah.
When the rest of the business isn't running.
Yeah. So the Australian Hoteliers Association, they see that as a big threat to their revenue. A spokesperson for the AHA came out and said, we should be very careful of regulatory overreach here. We stand in solidarity with organised criminal syndicates and remain committed to our common mission of destroying the lives of poor people in the name of money. So that was refreshingly honest. I mean, that wasn't literally what they said, but that was the gist of it.
It's not a word-for-word quote. I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. Well, anything we can, any step we can take is good in my book, I think.
But I mean, the thing is, it's an interesting one, just to bring it back to markets. So it's an interesting one for a group like Endeavour Group or some private equity players that own a lot of pubs. It potentially would be a bit of a hit to their, if this New South Wales got really serious about pokies, which they should. Like in a well-located pub, pokies account for a third of revenue.
Wow.
And so, so a third of revenue off an incredibly small cost base. So they're hugely profitable for the pubs, and they're capitalised into the value. So a pokie license is worth $600,000.
Wow.
You can trade them, but you got to pay that much. So like the value to just bleed poor people of their money is worth $600,000. So, and that's the prices that current pub owners have paid. So current pubs face a hit, one, to their revenue if there's a serious crackdown, and two, to their asset values, because the value of the licenses would fall.
Yeah, right.
So which is why they're pushing back so hard against it. They don't want to see any regulation. But,
Well, yeah, but
cry me a river.
It's like drug dealers complaining that someone outlawed heroin. I can't believe it. Can't even deal smack anymore.
It's communism.
All right, Thomas, I love this story. Police have urged people to be careful in the Northern Territory, be on the lookout for some fake bills. What's going on?
Yeah, so apparently some fake bills, and there's a lot of unknowns in this story, which is a bit odd. The fake bills were apparently used in film and TV production, but it was in Alice Springs, which is not known as one of the film and television
This is the Hollywood of Australia, isn't it? That's what they call it. Alice Springs, the tinsel town of the North Centre.
Yeah. But so apparently a whole bunch of fake bills have been stolen from a house in Alice Springs. From a house though, well, not from a set, but from a house. But anyway, the NT Police have released a statement saying that the $100 bills feature a series of subtle differences to authentic cash.
Yeah.
This includes that rather than Sir John Monash and Dame Nellie Melba on the $100 notes, they've got Steve Irwin and Alf from Home and Away.
I love that Alf that still doesn't have a last name, even in the official police publication. Steve Irwin and Alf from Home and Away, because everyone just knows who it is. It's surprising they've had to issue a warning saying don't accept a $100 bill with a picture of Steve Irwin on it.
I mean, to be fair, it's a high-end production. It's not just some teenagers with a pen.
It's got a picture of Steve Irwin on it. It's not someone who's never appeared. I'm not saying he shouldn't be on money. I'm just saying to date, he's never been on money.
Yeah,
and that if someone handed me one, I'd be like, yes. So I smell a rat.
Yeah, but if you were in Singapore and someone gave you $100 note that didn't have some Singaporean historical figure but had a K-pop kind of celebrity.
Oh, sure,
on it.
yeah. If you're,
Maybe,
yeah.
I don't know.
If you're working, maybe you're picking grapes in Australia, you're backpacking out here, and the grape, what do you call? I don't even know what farmer was paying you in cash and just started dishing out Alf from Home and Away.
That's all right. You'd Google who was Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin was Australia's most loved naturalist.
Oh, that must be why he's on the $100 note.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, there's a few other subtle differences. So the Shrine of Remembrance.
Yeah.
It's normally on the note. That was replaced by John Farnham.
Of course. Yeah.
And they've replaced the word Australia with Australia.
See, it's a dead giveaway right there, because everyone knows the proper abbreviation for Australia is Straya and not Australia. There's no Australia doesn't exist in the Australian vernacular. But yeah, I noticed in a case of art imitating life, they've replaced the Australian masked owl with and native wattle with a mining haul truck.
That's right.
Move over, native flora and fauna. We've got mining to do. Oh man! The thing about this, right, is that given that it's a film set, and presumably, like, I don't know, maybe they often go to remote locations to film Hollywood blockbusters. So it's potential that it's quite a collectible. So these $100 notes might actually be worth more than $100 depending on the success of the movie. So they might not even use them. They might just keep them as like a souvenir. Imagine if that's like some sort of like Titanic version 2. I'm not filming the Titanic in Alice Springs, are they? But you know, some massive Hollywood blockbuster, then you just keep the notes. And with the way inflation's going, you know, I'd rather have a fake $100 note with Steve Irwin on it with the chance of being a collector's item than an actual $100 note.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, I think your logic's sound. I wouldn't buy it until it was an NFT, obviously, but yeah.
You've got to be pretty brave, I reckon, to walk into a shop with a $100 note with Steve Irwin, John Farnham and a mining truck on it and try and use it. Like, I'd love to see someone try and hand over that fake note. But I'd take it even further. Like when the shopkeeper was like, "Oi, this is dodgy. I'm calling the cops." Just have like your mate rock up in like a 98 Commodore with police written on the side of it. Just coming in going, "Nino, Nino, Nino." Hello. What seems to be the problem here? Oh, I can see Australia written on there. Everything seems to be above board. Oh, God. Yes. Well, police have advised any shopkeepers receiving money with Alf from Home and Away on it to simply respond with, "Get out of my store, you flaming mongrel." All right. I reckon that does us for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed this week's show. We hope you enjoy every show. We'd really like it if you could rate and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. That would help us out a lot. But for myself and Thomas, it's bye from us, and we'll talk to you again next time on Comedian versus Economist. Bye.
You have been listening to an Equity Mates Media production. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. This podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes. Any advice is general advice only and has not taken into account your personal financial circumstances, needs, or objectives. Before acting on general advice, you should consider if it is relevant to your needs and read the relevant product disclosure statement. And if you're unsure, please speak to a financial professional. The hosts of this podcast and their guests may have positions in the companies mentioned. Equity Mates Media operates under an Australian Financial Services Licence 540697.